Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. This time we're heading all the way to Central Asia to explore the fascinating history of Kazakhstan.
I'm excited for this one.
Me too. It's a country that often gets overlooked, but it has such a rich and really complex story.
Definitely. And it's geographically fascinating too.
Right. It's the largest landlocked country in the world.
Yeah.
And it's been shaped by these vast steppes and these really unique nomadic cultures.
For sure. For sure.
So I guess before we really jump in,
Okay.
what are we kind of looking at here?
Well, we're going to be spanning a pretty huge amount of time,
Okay.
going all the way back to prehistoric times.
Okay.
And we'll be tracing the evolution of Kazakhstan
Right.
through different empires and rulers.
Yeah.
And all the way up to its independence and where it stands today.
So we've got archaeological evidence,
Yeah.
historical accounts, all that good stuff.
Exactly.
To paint a picture of this journey.
Yep.
Sounds like a pretty ambitious deep dive.
Yeah. But I think our listeners are going to dig it, There's something about these nomadic cultures
I think so too, yeah.
that just captures the imagination.
It's so different from, our settled societies.
Yeah.
So let's get started.
Okay, sounds good.
Take us back to the beginning.
All right.
It's how far back are we talking?
Well, hold on to your hats because we're going all the way back to the Paleolithic era.
Wow.
We're talking tens of thousands of years ago.
That's ancient.
It is, and we actually have evidence of early human settlements.
Really?
Yeah, in the region, dating back to that time.
So humans have been roaming the Kazakh steppes for a really long time.
A long, long time.
So who are these early people?
Well, it's hard to say for sure since they didn't leave us any written records.
Yeah.
But we know they were hunter-gatherers and they were adapting to this, challenging environment.
That's the thing. The steppes are this vast open grassland, right?
Exactly, with harsh winters and scorching summers.
Oh.
It was not an easy place to survive.
So these early people were really tough.
Oh, absolutely. They had to be to make it out there.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just about survival, right?
No. They also developed their own unique cultures.
Like what?
Well, we found evidence of early art, tools, and even burial rituals.
Oh, interesting.
Which suggests a belief in an afterlife, things like that.
Okay, so a pretty sophisticated society.
Yeah, for the time period, definitely.
Now, moving forward a bit.
Okay.
I know we have to talk about the Scythians.
Oh, you can't talk about the steppes without talking about the Scythians.
Right.
Okay.
They're like the quintessential steppe people. When I think of the steppes, I think of the Scythians.
Yeah, exactly.
So give us the rundown.
All right, so the Scythians were these nomadic warriors who dominated the Eurasian steppes for centuries.
How long are we talking?
We're talking roughly from the 8th century BC to around the 4th century AD.
Okay, so a long reign.
Well, a long time, yeah.
Okay, so nomadic warriors, that sounds pretty intense.
Oh, they were fierce. Absolutely fierce.
What were they known for?
Well, they were legendary for their horsemanship.
Okay, I've heard about this.
They were practically born on horseback.
Right.
They could ride and shoot arrows with incredible accuracy.
While riding.
While riding at full gallop, yeah.
That's amazing.
It's pretty incredible to think about.
Yeah, that takes so much skill.
It does, yeah.
So they must have been pretty successful in battle.
Oh, yeah. They were feared throughout the ancient world.
Wow.
And they built a powerful empire through conquest and trade.
Now, you mentioned trade.
Yeah.
What were they trading?
Well, they controlled important trade routes across the steppes, connecting east and west.
All right.
And they traded all sorts of goods like gold, furs, slaves,
So they weren't just warriors. They were also savvy merchants.
Exactly. They were very skilled at navigating the complexities of steppe politics and economics.
Interesting. And their culture?
Their culture was fascinating.
What was it like?
Well, they were known for their intricate gold work.
Oh, yeah. I've seen pictures of that.
Stunning. Right.
It's really beautiful.
It is.
Very detailed.
Yeah.
Very ornate.
Very much so, yeah.
What kind of things would they make?
They made jewelry, weapons, ornaments for their horses, all sorts of things.
So this is a central part of their culture.
Absolutely. And these artifacts give us a glimpse into their beliefs and their rituals.
I feel like we could do a whole deep dive just on the Scythians.
Oh, easily. Easily.
But for now, we got to keep moving.
All right, let's do it.
So after the Scythians, who comes next in this story?
Well, the Scythians eventually declined, but the steppes remained a crossroads for different cultures and empires.
Okay.
And in the 6th century AD, a new power emerged, the Turkic Khaganate.
The Turkic Khaganate. Okay,
Yeah.
Tell me about them.
Well, they were a nomadic empire that stretched from southeastern Europe
Wow.
all the way to the north of China.
That's a massive territory.
The huge empire, yeah.
So they were major players.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so what was their impact on Kazakhstan?
Their impact was significant.
Okay.
They brought with them the Turkic language,
Okay.
which is still spoken in Kazakhstan today.
So they had a lasting linguistic legacy.
Definitely. Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
it is. And they also introduced new cultural elements.
Such as?
Well, things like their political organization, their military tactics, even their clothing styles.
So they really left their mark on the region.
Oh, without a doubt.
It's amazing how these nomadic empires
Right.
just swept across these vast distances.
Yeah, it's incredible how they were able to build and maintain such huge empires.
And leave such a lasting cultural impact.
Right, exactly.
But this story doesn't end there, right?
No, not at all.
I mean, I can't imagine talking about Central Asian history without mentioning
Genghis Khan?
Genghis Khan.
Of course.
So how does he fit into the picture here?
Well, in the 13th century, Genghis Khan and his Mongol armies swept across Asia
Like a storm.
like a whirlwind, yeah.
And Kazakhstan was right in their path.
It was, yeah.
So what was the impact of the Mongol invasion?
The Mongol invasion was a turning point for Kazakhstan.
Okay.
It completely reshaped the political landscape.
Also,
Well, the Mongols incorporated Kazakhstan into their vast empire.
right?
They brought with them their own system of administration, their military organization, their legal codes.
So they kind of imposed their own structure on the region?
Yeah, they did, but it wasn't just about brute force. They also encouraged trade and cultural exchange.
Interesting. So a bit of a mixed bag, I guess,
I could say that, yeah.
with both positive and negative consequences.
Oh, right, exactly.
But either way, the Mongol invasion was a major event.
Oh, absolutely. It left a lasting impact on Kazakhstan.
It makes you wonder how things might have been different.
Yeah, it's always fascinating to think about the what-ifs of history.
It is. But for now, let's
Yeah.
keep moving forward.
Okay, sounds good.
So what happens after the Mongols?
Well, the Mongol Empire eventually fragmented.
Okay.
And in the 15th century, we see the rise of the Kazakh Khanate.
The Kazakh Khanate, right?
Yeah.
This is a key moment, right?
Absolutely. This is when we see the emergence of a distinct Kazakh identity.
So how did this happen?
Well, the Kazakh Khanate united various nomadic tribes under a single banner,
Okay.
and they shared a common language, culture, and traditions.
So this was like a unifying force.
Definitely, it solidified the Kazakh people as a distinct group.
Okay, so we're seeing the foundations of a Kazakh nation being laid.
Exactly, yeah.
But I'm guessing it wasn't all smooth sailing from here.
You're right, there are still many challenges ahead.
Like what?
Well, in the 18th century, the Russian Empire began to expand eastward.
And they set their sights on Kazakhstan.
They did, yes.
So how did the Kazakhs respond to this new threat?
Well, there was resistance,
Makes sense.
led by figures like Kenesary Khan.
Kansari Khan.
He was a Kazakh leader who fought fiercely against Russian encroachment.
So they weren't just going to give up their territory without a fight.
Absolutely not. They were determined to maintain their independence.
And how did these conflicts play out?
Well, it was a long and difficult struggle.
Okay.
The Kazakhs faced a powerful and technologically advanced adversary.
Yeah. The Russian Empire was a force to be reckoned with.
It was, and eventually the Kazakh Khanate was incorporated into the Russian Empire.
So they lost their independence.
They did.
What was life like under Russian rule?
Well, Russian rule brought about significant changes to Kazakh society. They introduced new administrative systems, economic policies, and social structures.
So they kind of tried to assimilate the Kazakhs into the Russian Empire.
Yeah, that was the goal.
But I'm guessing the Kazakhs didn't just abandon their own culture.
No, they didn't. They held on to their traditions and their way of life.
And this clash of cultures
Yeah.
must have led to some tension
It did. There were uprisings and rebellions.
as the Kazakhs fought to preserve their identity.
Exactly. It was a constant struggle.
So we've got this ongoing conflict between the Kazakhs and the Russian Empire.
Yeah.
And then the 20th century rolls around.
Yeah.
And everything changes again.
Yeah, things get even more complicated.
Because now we have the Soviet Union.
Exactly.
So how did Kazakhstan become part of the Soviet Union?
Well, after the Russian Revolution in 1917,
Okay.
the Bolsheviks came to power
Right.
and they established the Soviet Union.
Okay.
And Kazakhstan was brought into this new communist state.
What was that like for the Kazakhs?
Well, It was a period of immense upheaval.
Okay.
The Soviets implemented radical policies that aimed to transform Kazakh society.
Like what?
Well, they collectivized agriculture, which meant taking land away from nomadic herders.
And forcing them to settle down.
Exactly. And this had devastating consequences.
Really? How so?
Well, it disrupted their traditional way of life.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It led to famine and resistance.
And it also destroyed the delicate ecosystem of the steppes.
It did, yeah.
Wow, so this was a really traumatic period.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very dark time for Kazakhstan.
And then there were Stalin's purges.
Yeah, the purges were horrific.
What happened?
Well, Stalin's regime targeted anyone they perceived as a threat, including intellectuals, political dissidents, and even entire ethnic groups.
So basically anyone who didn't conform.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And how did this affect Kazakhstan?
Kazakhstan suffered greatly.
Okay.
Millions of people were killed or deported.
Wow. That's just heartbreaking.
It was a brutal and senseless campaign of terror.
So the Soviet era was a time of immense hardship for Kazakhstan.
It was, yeah.
But it wasn't just about political repression and social upheaval.
You know, there were also environmental disasters.
Oh, right. The Semipalatinsk nuclear test site.
Yeah, that was a major tragedy.
Tell me about it.
Well, the Soviets conducted over 450 nuclear tests at Semipalatinsk.
450?
Yeah, it's a staggering number.
That's crazy.
It is, and these tests had devastating consequences for the environment and the health of the local population.
What kind of consequences?
Well, they caused widespread radiation poisoning, increased rates of cancer, birth defects, all sorts of horrible things.
Wow. So the legacy of these tests is still felt today.
Absolutely. It's a reminder of the terrible cost of the nuclear arms race.
And the human cost of these political decisions.
Yeah, it's a very sobering thought.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have, yeah.
From ancient nomadic empires to Russian colonization to the Soviet era.
And it's been a pretty tumultuous journey.
It has, but I know there's a glimmer of hope on the horizon.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because eventually Kazakhstan gains its independence.
That's right, in 1991, with the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Kazakhstan finally becomes a sovereign nation.
It's a huge moment in their history.
It is, and it marks the beginning of a new chapter.
A new era of self-determination.
So what does this new era look like for Kazakhstan?
Well, they faced a lot of challenges.
Of course, transitioning to a market economy.
Yeah.
Building democratic institutions.
All while dealing with the legacy of their past.
Oh, it's a lot to handle.
It is, but they've also made significant progress.
In what ways?
Well, they've developed their economy.
Okay.
They've become a major player in the energy sector.
Right. They have a lot of oil and gas reserves.
They do, yeah.
And they've also invested in education and infrastructure.
Trying to build a modern and prosperous society.
So they're really trying to make their mark on the world stage.
They are, yeah.
It's pretty amazing to see how far they've come.
It is, yeah.
From ancient nomads to a modern nation.
It's quite a journey.
It makes you wonder what the future holds for Kazakhstan.
It does, yeah. They're at a crossroads.
How so?
Well, they're trying to balance their traditions with their aspirations for the future.
Yeah.
They're trying to navigate the complexities of global politics and economics.
And they're trying to create a society that's both prosperous and just.
It's a tall order.
It is. But I have a feeling they're up to the challenge.
I think so, too. They've shown incredible resilience throughout their history.
I think that's a good place to wrap up.
Yeah, I think so, too.
It's been a fascinating deep dive into the history of Kazakhstan.
Definitely. A very complex and very rich history.
So much to uncover.
Yeah, so much to learn.
And for our listeners, if this has piqued your interest,
yeah,
I encourage you to do your own exploring.
Absolutely.
There's a whole world of fascinating stories waiting to be discovered.
That's the beauty of history.
It is. So until next time, keep exploring.